Hi, it's Wednesday, February 12th. I'm Jeremy Shea, the producer of Gavel Alaska. We've got some updates on our technical problems. We are still having some issues with our archiving process and streams. The problem our IT guys identified yesterday apparently did not resolve those issues. They're still working on it. Last I heard, the troubleshooting had gone further down our chain of causality, our signal chain. Our internet service provider is apparently getting involved now. So there will be some delays in the turnaround time for us to archive the stuff that we're shooting, specifically the stuff that we're shooting. We're still backfilling everything that we can as we go, but it's a slower and cumbersome process, and it just gets, the backlog builds up over the course of the day as more stuff piles up. As compared to when everything is running smoothly, and then it's a very fast turnaround time. The issue does not seem to be affecting our archiving or streaming of AKL.TV streams. Those are the ones the Legislative Affairs Agency's Media Services Office puts out through some webcams in all the committee rooms. I've also got some good technical news, some good news that's technical. A website migration began today, and it may still be underway as I speak. If you're a Gavel junkie, you might have noticed some oddities on 360north.org today, with more recent posts kind of evaporating, or outdated news or schedules resurfacing in their place. These are little hiccups with the migration process. It's pretty minor and should all work itself out in a few days if it hasn't already. The good news is Sarah Yu, who does a lot of our web stuff for us and answers a lot of help desk issues for Gavel stuff, she ran some speed comparison tests with the site's load speeds. So on the pre-migrated site, she clocked a 5.2 load speed, which is slow. On the migrated site, she clocked a load time of 181 milliseconds, so a fraction of a second, about less than a fifth of a second. So in other words, our load time should be down about 97%. So yay, that's great news. Similar improvements to ktoo.org if you're a Juno news reader. And one last update before the rundown. We got this in an email from the iTunes and Apple Store people or robots or whatever. So the ebook's been upgraded to waiting for review, whatever that means. The 8,000 fart noise apps out there kind of makes me wonder what they're reviewing. But I guess that's progress on getting this thing published. Sarah described the whole process as very nebulous. Anyways, here's what's coming up on Thursday, February 13th on Gavel, Alaska. We're starting at 8 a.m. in the Senate Resources Committee, where gas pipeline talk continues. At 9 a.m., we're following the Senate Finance Committee. They're hearing our presentation on the state-backed plan to spur private industry into trucking liquefied natural gas from the North Slope into Fairbanks and other communities around there, and some other presentations. There were a lot of other morning meetings I'd like to have covered, just too many things happening at the same time. A lot of interesting topics. There's a presentation on suicide prevention in House Community and Regional Affairs. The bill to arm village public safety officers is in House State Affairs. Marine debris and oil spill cleanup stuff is in the Department of Environmental Conservation Finance Subcommittee. We just don't have enough people and cameras. But that stuff all should be available, though, on 360north.org, courtesy of the AKL.TV guys. So thanks to them. At 11 a.m., the House Majority is holding their weekly press availability. Also at 11, the Armed Services Committee is hearing from Alaska's military brass. I took a peek at the presenter's PowerPoint presentation, and it sounded like, in addition to going over all the cool military stuff that happens in Alaska, there's also some information about some very real economic effects and job impacts in Alaska as a result of federal sequestration and Congress's other dysfunctions. Military folks are federal employees after all. At 1 p.m., there's a House Transportation meeting with some bills that were heard last week. HB 271 was the one that struck me. This is the one by North Pole Republican Representative Doug Isaacson, the one that would pay UAF $2 million to study the feasibility of building a railroad from Fairbanks to Deadhorse. The other bill has to do with some pretty down-in-the-weeds regulatory thing with who can drive certain commercial vehicles and under what licenses. Basically, it would make life a little easier on certain businesses that have to deal with CDLs and moving big vehicles, big trucks around. The only reason I mention it is that in the hearing I followed with these two bills in this committee, I think it was last week, they spent about 20 or 30 minutes on, this railroad, this huge mega project, and more than an hour on the CDL bill. Go figure. At 3 p.m., the House Health and Social Services Committee has an interesting bill getting its first hearing by Representative Lynn Gattis, a Wasilla Republican. It's HB 281, and she frames it as a way of making telemedicine more practical. Telemedicine is doctors doing visits by phone or Skype or whatever. It's doing it not physically in the same space. It holds a lot of promise for folks in remote communities. You can imagine how expensive it is to fly, from a village to somewhere just for a doctor's visit and back. But what this bill specifically does is it removes a requirement that doctors must perform a physical exam in order to write prescriptions, and it does it pretty much across the board, which seems like, yes, it could help telemedicine, but it also seems like it could stir up a lot of other issues, so I think that could be interesting. At 3:30, the Senate Community and Regional Affairs Committee is hearing the Senate version of the bill to permit village public safety officers to be armed while on duty. And those are the highlights for Thursday. Here's my contact information. Feel free to get in touch with me. Thanks for watching, and good night.